Well, 4 expeditions are behind us, and now it's time to think about the next one. But before we get ready, let's meet our guide. We need an experienced guide, because only God knows how this expedition could end. Oh, I see that you can't wait to find out who will be our guide. I think you've heard of him. Perhaps you even know him already. After all, we gathered here for a reason. Do you know the name Nathan Drake? If so, then you know what awaits ahead. Well, let's talk about how the Uncharted series forever changed the game industry, and also what waits us in the 5th installment. History of creation. Let's go to the very beginning, namely the year 2013, when the Naughty Dog studio was deciding to make a new project and opt out of the usual for the developer platformers and racing games. At that moment, the company was known for Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter. They were done in a cartoonish style. That became the shtick of the studio, but the developers wanted to jump a level higher than cartoonish platformers, which is why they've decided to make something qualitatively new. That's how the Project Big got born, taking place underwater, and the main character was named Nathan Drake. Amy Hennig was assigned the role of the creative director. Already at the start, the project had to be quickly remade, because another known studio was making a game with a similar setting. That game will later be known to the world as BioShock. Seeing this, the guys from Naughty Dog have decided to redo the concept of their game. First, they stopped at post-apocalypse, where you would be supposed to look for artifacts left by humankind. Their next idea was to place the hero in a high-tech future and to make its plot akin to the cult classic Back to the Future. But then they decided to take a risk and make an action game about a resilient and witty adventurer. By Hennig's advice, the game was supposed to hook you in with realistic plot, live characters, and general cinematic quality. The main character's concept was also rethought. If Nathan Drake began as a slightly dumb caricature of a second-rate TV show, in the end, he became a living human being, always walking on the edge. However, the wittiness and simplicity of the character was left intact, making him similar to Indiana Jones. In fact, adventure literature and films became the main inspiration for the developers. The trailer was first shown at E3 2006. At that moment, there was only a pre-render, and the project didn't even have a name yet. Instead, the trailer only contained the name of the studio. The audience, to put it lightly, didn't react very well to the trailer. Comparisons to Tomb Raider were unavoidable. The game got ridiculed and called Dude Raider. And yet, there were a couple of details that stopped the flow of negativity. Many people were pleasantly impressed by the cinematic quality of the game, and its impressive by that time graphics. The main nuance was that at the same exhibition, the Sony PlayStation 3 was presented for the very first time. It was a completely new, and different from previous consoles, platform, which is why a myriad of technical difficulties was expected. At the very least, it was necessary to understand the very complex architecture of the new console and learn to work with the new CPU. Many issues occurred from work with the game engine. It came to the point where the developers abandoned it altogether. Instead, they bought the Avok engine, with which the game was developed. The goal of the studio was to make and release the new project in 1.5 years. The first installment. The first installment, called Uncharted Drake's Fortune, came out in November 2007 as an exclusive for PS3. Not to repeat ourselves in the future, the entirety of the series is exclusive to the platform. So Drake's Fortune almost immediately received high reviews from the gaming press and, what's more important, from the players around the globe. The gamers really liked the story, graphics, and the charismatic and charming hero. The developers achieved their goal, managed to make the plot fitting for an adventure action and a main character with no pretension to superpowers. But the main achievement was the originality of the product. From the moment of release, Uncharted was still compared to Tomb Raider, but no one could accuse the game of plagiarism, and Nathan Drake occupied an honorary place in a list of adventurers along with Lara Croft and Indiana Jones. The plot of the game tells us about the hunt for the lost treasures of the legendary city of El Dorado. The game turned out not to be very long and could be played in about 6 hours on normal difficulty. Uncharted had everything for what everyone loves the adventure genre so much: treasure hunting, puzzles, spectacular locations, melee combat, and gunfights. The players remembered them the most, as they were about 80% of the gameplay. Some even joked that even in GTA or Postal, less people die from the protagonist's hands. Even though the game was a strictly linear third-person shooter, the diversity and improvement of the trending features of the genre allowed it to give the players a unique experience. The most curious of the players also managed to find the 61 treasures hidden throughout the game. For finding those, you unlocked a multitude of additional game materials. Another distinguishing feature of the game were the parkour elements, similar to Prince of Persia from the series of the same name. You were supposed to crawl on walls, ledges, vines, and pipes, through the parts of the game. This mix allowed the game to earn the title of the Game of the Year. So everyone realized that a new franchise was born, which once and for all changed the industry of console games. With every following installment, this notion only strengthened. Among Thieves. The second installment, called Among Thieves, came out in 2009. It didn't just keep the quality bar set up by the first game, but exceeded all expectations, becoming the Game of the Year once again. The game had noticeably improved graphics and gameplay, and most importantly, the scale. If the first game took place on one island, in the second, Drake with friends travels between several countries. This time he's hunting for the treasures of the legendary Marco Polo, while fighting some very bad guys, destroying hordes of enemies once again. Just like in the first game, a treasure hunting system is present, but now there's much more of them, a whopping 101. The game became noticeably more cinematic. Smooth transitions from cutscenes to gameplay immersed the players into the world of the game and truly created a feeling of watching an adventure film. The stage setting and camera work was spectacular. So Uncharted 2 didn't simply not disappoint, but set a new bar for quality and specularity. And the cherry on top was the multiplayer with a multitude of game modes, beginning with standard deathmatch and co-op, and more interesting, chain reaction, where you had to capture points on the map in a strict order. In total, the game has 7 multiplayer modes, so any player can find something they would like. And as many players and reviewers noted, the second game turned out to be a blockbuster made with heart. You can see that Naughty Dog didn't simply put the series on a conveyor, knowing that the branding will work, but instead put into it something more than program code and scenario. The characters became even more alive, the plot was even more akin to a movie, and in general, even small issues that were in the first game, in graphics or gameplay, the second game improved and fixed. There was still one nuance present though. In Uncharted Among Thieves, the players were still playing as a one-man army, and the total count of the people Nathan killed could be compared to a population of a small town. The developers also improved the stealth, which allowed you to kill the enemies silently. The gunfights attracted not just with amount, but with quality, being spectacular and furious, not allowing the players to get bored, but also not turning into a repetitive cycle. Uncharted: Drake's Deception. In December 2010, first news about the third installment appeared. At the same time, it was revealed that the game will take place in a desert. And most importantly, the developers named the release date, November 1, 2011. The developers gave more info in the April release of the PlayStation official magazine. One of the most important features was diversity of the locations, starting with the desert and ending with jungles, as well as improved stealth. With the 2 previous games, Naughty Dog learned to balance all of the game components, and now their goal was to simply follow the success formula, which is not something that any studio or series manages to achieve. And so, after the release of the third game, many players and reviewers once again agreed that this game is beautiful in every aspect. Let it be gameplay, where more attention was given not just to the gunfights, but also melee combat, or an amazing pacing of the plot, which never feels stretched. Another mention deserves the presentation of the story, which was executed fantastically, and the plot itself, which became more serious and even gloomy at times. And yet, the style of Drake didn't go anywhere with his witty and sarcastic remarks, as well as humor. The game still could be finished in several hours, but immersed the players so much that it again became an interactive movie, giving a unique gaming experience. The multiplayer was also worked on and slightly improved. In particular, an ability to customize your characters and weapons was added, as well as an improved melee system. Many call the game a worthy finale of the adventurer's story, but as it turned out, it wasn't the end. Uncharted: A Thief's End. The work on the 4th installment Uncharted began back in 2013. 2014 was a breaking point. Amy Hennig left the position of creative director after working on all the previous games in the series. Neil Druckmann took her place. It was stated that the game will come out for the 4th generation of Sony PlayStation. As developers said, this transition would allow them to realize many technical aspects, which were impossible in the PS3. For example, use a huge amount of polygons and higher quality textures for high resolutions. The story didn't get any fundamental changes. It was once again the adventures of Nathan Drake and his friends in search for treasures and fighting powerful foes. Now, the brother of Drake, Sam, also joined the adventure. It didn't affect the gameplay much, but it impacted the plot quite a lot, as he wasn't present in previous installments, and the players were interested to learn what happened while he and Nathan were separated. The plot tells us about the search for the treasure of Henry Avery. Also, they had to meet the past enemies face to face and survive in the present. For the 4th time, the adventures of Nathan Drake gained universal love and recognition from both players and critics. Traditionally, the game received many awards, including the Britain Academy's Best Game Award. In 2022, the game will come out on PC and PlayStation 5. In 2020, a voice actor got into a scandal. Some players were not happy that a dark-skinned character was voiced by white Laura Bailey. One of the things that made the game memorable was the amount of times its release was postponed. First, the game was supposed to come out in 2015, then March 18, 2016, then April 16 of the same year. As a result, Thieves' End came out May 20, 2016. The end quality of the product didn't gain anything from this, which we talked about earlier. What about Uncharted 5? As of the end of 2021, Uncharted 5 is in development. So far, all the info is rumors or leaks, and everyone decides for themselves to believe it or not. But still, there's several opinions that could claim to be the truth. Main one, Nathan Drake will not be the protagonist anymore, but instead his mentor, Victor Sullivan. The game will take place in the 80s, when the grass was greener, and Vic, naturally, younger. Considering that many people love the setting and aesthetics of the 80s, and we're awaited by a great story and adventure of a man who, in many years, will become the mentor of our beloved hero. Another thing is the scale of the game. Rumor is the game will take place in the Caribbean, and players will be able to explore the island. However, it is not clear how that will work with the interactive adventure film formula. We can be sure of one thing: Sony won't leave one of its most successful series for long, so the 5th installment could reach the console in 2022 or 2023. Other projects in the Uncharted universe. Other than the original quadrilogy, there's other projects in the Uncharted universe. There's 3 spin-offs, which tell us about other adventures of Drake, as well as about a heroine by the name of Chloe Fraser, and 2 movies. Rumors about an Uncharted movie began in 2013, when it was presumed that Nathan Drake will be played by Nathan Fillion, known to many by the TV show Firefly. In 2018, a movie with Fillion really came out, but it was a short that was only 15 minutes long. Victor Sullivan was played by Stephen Lang, the same actor who played the blind veteran in the movie Don't Breathe, and Colonel Quaritch in Avatar. The fans of the franchise reacted to the film positively and recognized that one Nate looks great in the role of the other. However, a year before, it became known that rights to a complete film adaptation passed to Columbia Pictures, which knows very well what a game-based movie should be like. The producer, director, and actors for main roles all changed. In 2021, we found out that the full movie will be released in 2022. Ruben Fleischer, who gave us Zombieland and the first Venom, will be the director, and main roles belong to Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. Nolan North, who voiced Nathan Drake in all of the games, responded well to their candidatures. Also, Nathan Fillion added that he's sure that they will not disappoint neither the players nor the viewers. And with this, our tale about a young adventure seeker ends. Thank you for watching and for your like. If you would like to support us, a link to our